There will indeed in the second resurrection be many who have never heard of Jesus. They can only be judged. Here's the principle. You can only be judged. God can only judge you through Jesus on the basis of what you reasonably could know. That's why Jesus said in John, I get it. There's a sliding scale here. You can only be judged for what you could reasonably know. So those in the second resurrection, Jews, indeed, many of them will be Jews who lived before Christ. They cannot be judged on the basis of their adherence to the law of Messiah. They'd never heard of it. So they will be judged on the basis of what they could know, which was the law of Moses. That's a great question. And I refer you again to that text in John's Gospel where Jesus twice said, the sliding scale applies. If you had never heard, you cannot be judged by something you've never heard of. That's only fair. And we remember then the text where Paul said in Romans, that's very true. Now, they may not have come to a full knowledge of the gospel of Jesus as he preached it, but they're judged according to the law written in their hearts, and their conscience then bearing witness, their thoughts accusing or excusing them. That's to do with what we call the wider hope. And the question was really very good. What is the status of people who lived before Jesus? They cannot be judged on the basis of the law of Messiah, of which they'd never heard.
Before those verses,
Yes.
13, in verse 12, for all who have sinned without
Yes.
the law
Got it.
will perish without the law.
Good.
While those who sin under the law, now I'm reading here the law as the law of Moses,
Yes. Yes.
will be judged by that law. So obviously, Abraham said to, I guess to himself in Genesis, will not the God of all the earth judge rightly, judge correctly? It would be very unfair, very unjust for God to judge you on a different scale, as you put it, on a different timeline even. But there clearly it sounds like Paul is saying, well, people who lived under that system will live and die under that system.
From Genesis to Revelation, you are going to be judged by what you do. There's no other standard to judge you by. Now, what you are responsible for knowing is a different issue. But we are under the law of Messiah now, and we Christians then are responsible to the law of Messiah, the Torah of Messiah, not to the Torah of Moses. So Paul is a little bit tricky, has to be read with very great care. But the obedience of faith, you want a key verse. The obedience of faith is the standard principle. You'll find that obedience of faith in Hebrews 5:9, the obedience of faith. You can only be judged by what you do right before the law that you understand. You cannot be judged by a law you've never heard of. So be careful what you hear. Jesus said that. Be careful what you hear. You may be hearing things today for which you now become guilty, which you weren't guilty before because you've never heard of them. But now that you know them, then be warned.
Yeah, I would also throw in here, now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law. So obviously, so you are judged according to whatever system you're.
That's right, according to whatever system you're under. And you today are not under the law of Moses.
Right.
Don't try to be, because you're going to take yourself away from salvation